The next unit we will be discussing is similarity. When you're talking about two or more figures that are similar, you will use proportions to find out information at times. So let's review this topic. First thing we need to discuss is the word ratio. What is a ratio? A ratio is a comparison between two things. Now, a ratio can be written three different ways. The first way it can be written is as a fraction, like A over B, if we're comparing A to B. Or it can be written with a colon. And last, it can be written as a statement, A to B, in that order. Now, do you know what the equation is called when two ratios are equal to each other? If you said proportion, you were right. So what's the definition of proportion? An equation when two ratios are set equal to each other. This is what we're mainly going to look at today. So question is, how do you solve a proportion? How do you solve a proportion? We use a property called the cross product property. And I think mainly, or most of you would be more familiar with this, cross multiply. So let's do just that. Let's look at a couple of proportions and solve them out, trying to find the unknown information. Going down here. All right, first example. 4 over 6 equals 8 over x. Now this is considered a proportion. Why? I have one ratio that's set equal to another ratio. We're just trying to figure out what this information is. Now some of you may be able to do this in your head, but we want to get in a habit of using this property, the cross product property, or in other words, to cross multiply, because the proportions will definitely become more intense. So what happens? We take these two terms here and multiply them together. So what's being done? 4 times x equals, we take the other side, 8 and 6, and we multiply those together. Hence the term cross multiply. So let's clean this up. 4 times x is 4x, and 8 times 6 is 48. And the main goal is to try to figure out what is x. So in order to get x by itself, since 4 is being multiplied to x, to undo this operation, we need to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 4. So x equals 12. All right, let's look at another one. So what if I had 2 over 7 equals 8 over w minus 2? Still a proportion. We have a ratio that is equal to another ratio. It just looks a little more intense. We're going to do the very same thing though. We're going to take this and multiply it together. And we're going to take the other side and multiply it together. Now, when I'm given more than one term, this is how I like to write this. I like to write the single term out in front and the double in parentheses. Let's look at the other side, which is 7 times 8. Now, some of you may stop writing this out here. You may just go ahead and do that simple math in your head, which is totally fine. But the other side, to stay organized, I advise you to write it this way. So we have 2 open parentheses, W minus 2, close parentheses, equals 56. Now we have a basic equation. So how do we clear parentheses from an equation? Use the distributive property. So 2 times W is 2W. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And we have 56 on the other side. So I'm trying to get W by itself. I need to remove this negative 4 from this side. I'm going to take it to the other side by doing the opposite, which is adding. That goes away. All I have on the left side is 2W, and on the right is 60. Now to get W on its own, I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and I find out that W equals 30. Let's look at another. Scroll on down. What if I had, let's step it up a notch. What if I had x plus 8 over negative 3? And that equaled to 17 minus x all over negative 2. All right, so how do we solve this proportion? We are going to cross multiply these two terms together. So here's the single term. I'm going to put it out in front, and I'm going to put this x plus 8 in parentheses. So we have this cross multiplication equals this cross multiplication. The single term is negative 3, and I'm going to put 17 minus x in parentheses. Now let's solve for x. I have distributive property on both sides. On the left, I'm going to take negative 2 and multiply it by everything in the parentheses. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times positive 8 is a negative 16. Watch your signs there. Again, negative 3 times 17 is negative 51. And negative 3 times a negative 1x, remember there's an understood 1 here, it is positive 3x. Now let's get our letters on one side. I like to take them to the left. So I'm going to subtract 3x to both sides. And I get negative 2x minus 3x is negative 5x. I'm going to bring down my negative 16 and negative 51. Just do one thing at a time. This one away. I'm going to add 16 to the other side. Negative 5x equals negative 35. And divide both sides by negative 5. And my rule says if I divide a negative by a negative, it is a positive. So negative 35 divided by negative 5 is 7. All right. What can you do with a problem? Let's see. Your turn. What if you had x plus 1 over 4 equals 3 over 4? Now would be a great time to pause the video, work it out yourself. Once you're done, hit play, and let's see how you did. All right, let's see if you got the correct answer. So we're going to cross multiply 4 times x plus 1. And cross multiply the other side, 4 times 3, which is 12. Clear parentheses first by the distributive property, so you should have gotten 4x plus 4 equals 12. Subtract 4 from each side, you have 4x equals 8. Divide both sides by 4, and x should have been 2. How'd you do? Hope everything went well. See you in class.